Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. And I would like to thank you for being patient with me as this is my first go with a lot of this software, and I hope you bear with me. And thank you for being here so much. I want to say I initially had no intention of recording myself, like doing a video. I just wanted to do audio because I'm not a fan of being behind the camera. In front of the camera, I suppose. I would rather be behind it taking photos or doing selfies. This is a little more professional, but I do enjoy video clips and sharing and having social media content. So I decided that was the best thing to do. So I hope that you continue to follow along and watch and listen. And I appreciate you being here today. It really means more to me than you know. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my why for doing this podcast, which I know that I've discussed this before, but the reason I wanted to bring it up again is because I had a friend the other day, Jason Meese. He's a fellow Ardmorite. He commented on a post when I did my announcement that I was doing the podcast, and he told me that my dad would be proud of me and for me for doing this. And honestly, like, that's it. That's it right there. I grew up just instilled with a love for OU sports, all sports. My dad watched everything. And so I grew up learning about all sports. I did play some when I was younger. I'm not really your typical athlete, but I love watching sports. I grew up on OU football, basketball, listening to Bob Berry on the radio, attending sporting events with my dad, baseball, softball, and I used to do gymnastics, so I've always been drawn to that as well. So I just grew up with that instilled in me, and that's really all that I ever knew. And so when I attended the University of Oklahoma, I, as a student, attended, of course, all football games. I traveled. I've been all over the United States for football games and been to a lot of fantastic venues, and I'm very thankful for those opportunities. Also attend men's and women's basketball, as I always have, baseball, softball, and again, those are just my passion. I get very passionate. I understand the most, and I'm not trying to say I understand X's and O's about anything. I'm certainly was not a player or a coach, but I love football. That's my passion. I follow our OU guys in the NFL and beyond, their OU careers, and same with softball. That's my passion. Those girls. I am loving the fact that Oklahoma, the OKC Spark, has the professional softball team that we have, and I'm just hoping that those softball girls get a lot more opportunities to get on a bigger stage after their graduation. And we've had a lot of talent come through OU over the years, and it's been so fun to watch. And baseball, of course, baseball is one I like to follow more in person than watching on TV. Most of the time, if I'm missing a sporting event that OU is a part of, I'm watching it on TV at home or listening on the radio, following on Twitter, whatever. I'm very thankful that social media over the years has given us the opportunity to be able to follow and support our teams even when we can't be there in person, and that's what's so important. Basketball is probably the sport that I understand the least, just as far as X's and O's and such, but my passion is still there. I still attend a lot of basketball games and support the team, and I just love following all of my OU players in all the sports, and that's been my goal. So this year, we joined the SEC, and my goal was to attend the first home opener SEC game in all of the major sports that I could. Unfortunately, I'm having to miss the gymnastics SEC home opener this week, but I've hit football, women's basketball, men's basketball, and I have softball and baseball on my slate, and I'm ready to go. So I that's something that's important to me. I also actually hit women's soccer, which was the first ever SEC home opener at OU. So that was a lot of fun as well. So anyway, my why as to why I'm doing this and where I got my passion from, it's just inbred in me. I truly am Sooner born and Sooner bred, and I don't think that I'll ever not have that passion there for OU sports. It's just my life has always been just what's the sports schedule. Obviously in the fall we plan everything around football, and we travel accordingly. I do have a little secret to tell for those of you who don't know me. My husband is actually an OSU graduate, so he's a Poke. So he has season football tickets in Stillwater, and I have mine in Norman. And we travel to those accordingly. Sometimes we split up, sometimes we're together. I always told him, I actually have a story from a bad experience I had in Stillwater. I'll save that for another time. But when I left Stillwater at a certain game in college, I swore I was never going back. And I held to that until my husband. And I told him from day one, I said, I will go to anything with you in Stillwater as long as it's not Bedlam football. I just can't handle it. It's too much. I can't do it. So I've held to that promise. I have been to Stillwater for Bedlam baseball, softball, basketball, men's and women's. So I'm a good wife still in supporting him, but I don't wear orange. I don't own anything in a shade of orange. I only wear black or brown when I go to Stillwater. So don't come at me. But I wanted to let that secret out. I'm actually going to have him on the show, I think, maybe sometime soon. Ask him if he wanted to record with me. So we'll see how that goes. He is a huge sports fanatic as well, and he's very thankful that I share that passion, obviously. So I wanted to encourage you, please, if you follow me on social media, to leave me a review on Facebook, Spotify, and Apple Podcast, just to let me know that you listened today. Leave a rating, a review. That's what helps other people find my show and sharing it. Of course, I'm going to have a lot of social media content that you can share as well in your stories or on your own social media. So I do appreciate those of you that take the time to do that. It really means a lot. And back to my why as to why I do this. Kind of feel like I'm all over the place, so I apologize for that. But there's one more thing I wanted to say that I didn't say a second ago is, as a girl, I've always kind of been looked down on, I guess. Like people think, oh, she's a girl, she doesn't really understand sports or whatever. And that kind of goes back to my story about Stillwater, which, like I said, I'll visit that on another episode. But I know my stuff, okay? I know my OU stuff for sure. And I follow NFL, NBA, I follow my OU guys well beyond their college years. And so to think that just because I'm a girl, I don't know what I'm talking about, I can promise you you're barking up the wrong tree. And so I came across another girl's podcast, and she kind of had the same experience. And she was saying that she was starting her podcast because people would always come at her and say, well, just name one player from, your team or whatever. And she was like, really? And so that's what she named her podcast, was Name One Player. And she's just a girl who loves the Minnesota Vikings, and she wanted to share that passion with other people. And here she is. And she's doing that. And, people always underestimate us women, but I can promise you, for myself, like a lot of us women, we have that passion for sports. We may not be able to play football because we're not a boy or whatever, but I can promise you that passion is there. And just because we're a girl, don't question us, don't come at us, because I can promise you it's there. And so, I did have somebody ask me on here if I was only going to cover women's sports. And no, I'm not only covering women's sports. My goal here is to have a perspective of OU sports and the passion and current events and things like that from a girl's perspective, okay? I'm going to cover football, men's and women's basketball, softball, gymnastics, men's and women, baseball. Pretty much if OU plays it, I'm going to cover it. I may cover some sports more than others, obviously, like whatever's in season and whatever I attend, obviously. But this is not just a women's sports podcast. This is something that men and women can listen to and that can share. And it's just from a woman's perspective, because I honestly don't think there's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of women's voices in the sports world. And that's always kind of bothered me a little bit. So some of you may know my friend Chris Plank. He's a sideline reporter for OU football, and he's the voice on the radio for OU softball. And he's a friend of mine, and I've been on the radio with him a few times over the years. And the first time I got on the radio with him, he threw me on there, okay? Literally, I drove up to meet him somewhere, and he goes, hey, come here, hands me a headset, and I was like, what? But I really had fun doing that. I didn't really think twice about it. After that first time, I was just like, okay, that was fun. I shared it on social media. It was really cool, to be on the radio, and my dad would have thought that was the coolest thing ever. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing that, but I really never gave it a second thought. But then the second time rolled around, and he was like, we're doing this again, right? And I'm like, heck yeah, that was a blast. Of course, who doesn't want to be on the radio and talk about OU football? So that's kind of how this started. And just after I did that the second time, I was like, I had several people just tell me, you can tell that you're passionate about this and that you enjoy and you know what you're talking about. And that's really cool coming from a girl, because most people on the radio are guys, and most sideline reporters in college and, for universities and stuff are guys. And so we don't get a lot of that women perspective. And while I may not, qualify to be on the radio and talk about a lot of the ins and outs and X's and O's. I do hope that my voice makes a difference and maybe grabs the attention of another girl, even a little girl that has that interest for sports and they maybe just don't know who to listen to. So if you know a fellow girl, a little girl even, that's an OU fan or just has that interest in sport, I really hope that you would send them my way and hook them up with my podcast, because I would love for them to listen and I would love to hear their story. So the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was just where things are right now with OU sports. And okay, I'm trying to learn just the timeline and how to set up this podcast. So if you guys have any suggestions on what you want me to open with as opposed to you want me to close with, by all means, I'm open. But for today, that was kind of my why, my intro, and now I'm just going to move into the Sooner Sports current events, so to speak. So football season's over. Pros and cons, right? Okay, but we made a bowl game. We kept that streak alive. We lost a lot of guys in the portal, some big names that I really hated to see go. I really hate to lose those names because you always wonder, like, what's coming in? Are the people coming in as good quality as what we had going out? Obviously, that's still to be determined, but there's a lot of good names that came in, not just the quarterback, but other positions as well. So of course, they're starting back to practice soon, spring practice, and we'll get the spring game in April. It's on Saturday, April 12th in Norman, if you want to plan to attend. And that'll be our first glimpse of the 2025 football team. And so I'm obviously looking forward to that. It's always around my birthday. It's a lot of fun for me, something I look forward to. So, of course, I'm sitting here, looking at the coaching situation and just kind of where things have gone and all that. And I'm wondering, what's going to happen with our DC position? Is it just going to be Brent, or is he going to bring in someone? What's going to happen? So we really don't know anything as far as that's concerned yet. But again, I'm not super concerned because I know Brent can handle it. He's obviously a defensive mastermind. I believe he's made our defense come so far over the years, and I'm so thankful. Just hoping that our offense can catch up. But watching Ben Arbuckle on the sideline at the ball game, which I'm kind of over the bowl game, okay? So, I thought about talking about that for a while, and I'm just like, no, we're past that. That was a couple of weeks ago. No one wants to relive that. We're done, right? Okay? But Ben Arbuckle has a calm presence about him on the sideline, and I like to see that, and I'm very anxious to see how he does on the sideline. And so I think he'll be good. He obviously seems to be very talented, has raised up a lot of good quarterbacks, coached them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for us. I saw that today is 1 month until baseball starts, and I know it's actually less than a month for softball. So those two sports are on the horizon, and I am super pumped. Our baseball guys got left out of the preseason top 25, which I have mixed feelings about, but that's okay because we're just going to go out there and win. I really think that Skip has built a good program for us, and I really hope that everybody will get out to the Dale Mitchell Park this season and support the baseball guys. 1 month away, 1 month away, and that's super exciting. The spring sports, they always bring a lot of excitement. And softball's less than a month away. Softball, I love it, okay? So with football, I don't miss a home game. I've only missed 3 home games in the last 13 years that I've had season tickets, and that was for medical emergencies and 1 wedding, which I don't attend weddings during football season. I'm going to throw that out there because I'm 0-2 on divorces. So you don't stay married if I miss a football game to come to your wedding, but that's besides the point. I don't miss football games. I don't miss away games if I'm not at them. I'm watching them. It's a whole thing. I'm very superstitious, very particular. That's what I do. That's how I am with softball. I go to as many as I can, but there's a ton of games, So, and I don't live in Norman. But I go to as many as I can, but I always listen. My buddy Chris Plank, he's a voice on the radio. I love listening to him. I love listening to him call the plays. He is phenomenal. He always has some great sidekicks in the booth with him. And so if I'm not at the game, I'm watching it on TV, and I'm listening to Chris Plank on the radio. Mute the TV, listen to the radio. That's the drill. And so I am pumped about softball. But those are still a month away, so I wanted to visit a little bit about what's going on right now. So men's basketball started out undefeated until they got to conference play, and now they're 0-3 in conference play. Y'all, it sucks, and I'm not very happy about it. And I have tickets to go to the Texas game tomorrow night, and it's a 9 o'clock tip in Norman, okay? 9 o'clock. That's like bedtime, okay? But it's anytime I get a chance to do the horns down, I'm at it, okay? So I already have these tickets, so I'm gonna grin and bear it, go to the 9 o'clock tip. But Porter and the guys better get that ship turned around quick because it could go downhill fast. They weren't ranked this week for the first time all season, which is hard to grasp because they were literally on the cusp of the top 10. So that's rough, but they got a chance tomorrow night against Texas, and then they play South Carolina, I believe, at home on Saturday. So 2 chances this week to get out and watch the men's basketball team. Women's basketball team have rebounded well. They won the other day at home, and they play, I believe, Thursday night. I can't remember who they play. And then next Sunday, they play away at South Carolina. But there's plenty of opportunity to watch the ladies at home and to support them on TV. The girls are looking good, y'all. Coach Jenny is phenomenal. I love watching her coach. She really rallies around those girls and gets them pumped up. And so they're a lot of fun to watch. And I really hope that you support women's sports, not just because I'm not just saying that because I'm a girl. But like our women's gymnastics, they are national champions. They're not the reigning national champs, but they're ranked #1 right now. And they're coming off a really hard loss in the semis last year. But they always have a really strong team. And KJ Kindler is a phenomenal coach. She's also fun to watch. She really gets those girls riled up and ready for their meets. Our women's basketball with Coach Jenny has taken us pretty far into the tournament the last couple of years, and they are fun to watch. And of course, our softball girls. But y'all, get out and support women's sports, okay? Like, I know I mentioned the women's gymnastics. They have their SEC home opener this Friday night at Lloyd Noble. Get out and support them. They've got several meets at home this year, so there's plenty of opportunity. But get out and support those teams, those student athletes. They work so hard. Like, I literally cannot fathom the amount of work that they put in just to entertain us, right? Okay? So sometimes it's kind of hard to remember, even for me. I'm like, these are kids, right? Obviously very talented kids who have dreams and aspirations, and they come here for a reason, to OU, to win championships. But sometimes we fall short of that, and we have to realize there can only be one champion. And if you fall short, you just learn from it and better yourself and go on to the next time. But these kids work so hard to earn their degrees and show up for practice and put in the work. And it's really easy to get frustrated with them, which I do. I'm not saying I don't. It's okay to do that. And obviously, like, if you're not doing the job and performing the way you're supposed to on the mat, the floor, the field, whatever, the court, then maybe there's somebody else who can. And that's just how life goes. But get out and support these kids. It's a lot of fun. Like I say all the time, I don't understand people who don't like sports. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I truly don't, because it is so fun to watch. Like, even watching the NFL and you see these plays, like these Hail Marys at the end, or these buzzer beaters from the half court. Like, it's so fun to watch. And I just really hope that y'all get out and watch the teams that we have coming up. So I think that's pretty much all I have to wrap up for this week. But again, thank you for listening. I know that I talk kind of fast, so I've really got to work on that. So my apologies. But again, thank you for listening. I hope that you share, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And I will see you next week, next Wednesday, at the Sooner Girl Sports Pod, where on Wednesdays we talk sports.